Hey guys, thanks for checking out this video today. We are going to be assembling this Arclab ice fishing shuttle available through Radioworld. We're at our Burlington location here, Precision Marine Electronics Installations. Typically when we're here, we're working on boats and all about open water stuff, but today it's about ice fishing. So let's get into assembling this custom shuttle today from Arclab with Garmin products on it. I'll go over some of the tools that you'll require for this. It's just basic hand tools that most people will have. So we need wire cutters and strippers, wire crimpers, 6mm, 3/32 and 5/32 Allen key or hex socket, like these hex T sockets that we have. You're gonna need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a socket drive with an extension, and either a 6mm or 11/32 socket. The wrenches we're gonna use are 1/2 inch, 7/16, 3/8, and 11/32. Now, you could also use some pliers. Our wire strippers doubled as pliers to hold some nuts, which you'll see as we go. In the hardware kit, you should have 4 of the flush mount screws, 12 of the nylock nuts, and then 10 of the machine screws. You're also gonna have the 3M adhesive pad battery strap, and we're gonna go ahead and install that now. The 3M pad, if you install that on the bottom of the battery, it's going to be basically a permanent installation. So if you do think you're gonna need to take the battery out, you may wanna skip this step of putting this in. I'm actually not gonna put it in today. I'm just gonna use the strap. But I will tell you, if you are gonna be traveling where this thing's gonna be bouncing around, moving around, definitely gonna wanna use this, especially if you're throwing it in a sled or in the flip-up ice hut behind you, towing it with a machine across the lake. I would definitely recommend using this. If it's more lighter use, the strap will be fine. As you can see, there's a few different strap holes here, so we can do this in a few different configurations. If you are gonna use the 3M pad, you can just go ahead and put that right there, stick it down, ensure your battery placement is good, and you will also, when you get this front faceplate on, wanna make sure that you do have clearance here. So if we were to set it all the way over, it's gonna block this hole where our switch is gonna be, so you definitely don't want to do that. We'll go through the top side, pull it in, and then come out the hole right below it, just like that, there. We can then lay it on its back and basically do the same thing down here. Might have to push the battery up just a little bit in this case because it does come right there. Go in that second hole, come out the top one, get that strap nice and tight, and then pull the strap back on itself. So we've got that battery mounted in there now, and it is absolutely solid even without that adhesive pad. Like, that probably isn't gonna go anywhere, but that adhesive pad will give you that added protection. The other way you can do this as well is basically just feed the strap through, have it come out and around the bottom and then back. The only downside with that is it, over time will fray up. So this is definitely the better option because you only have a little bit of the material down here that could possibly fray up. So second step is gonna be flipping this guy around, and we're gonna go ahead and mount the GLS-10 module now, so we'll get that hardware kit out. This hardware kit that we've supplied, the larger components here are going to be to mount the unit, so we're not going to focus on those. We're going to focus on these parts here, which are the smaller ones for the module, and then we can just set this power assembly aside. Your nylock nut's going to require a wrench, or you can even use a pair of pliers. If you do use a wrench, 11/32, and then your screw head is a hex, so we're going to use a 3/32 on that. And thing to note with this, so your GLS-10 module, cables are going to be mounted up. They're not designed to be like that in a boat. In a boat, they're designed to be going down so water drains off them. So when we're doing this, the hangers, unfortunately, gravity is going to be against us because we have to go in here. So what I recommend you do, get your screw head into the slot, keep pressure on that, and then tighten down from the backside. That's the easiest way to do it. There are a couple different hole patterns on here depending on what brand you have. This one is the Garmin that we're doing. So we are just going to identify those holes we need. So it's going to be these ones here. What I like to do is just pass the bolt through, take our washer and nut on the other side, just get those started. I find it easiest if you do diagonal to start this out. And then once we have those in there, we can get our module in place. just by feeding those down. You can do them all at the same time. I found this just seems to be a little bit easier. You might just have to lift up on that module a little bit to get the head of the screw in there. Once you get one in, it goes pretty easy. And if you go a little too far, you can't get it into that slot. You might just have to lift up. That's why if you can, keep a little pressure on the front side of it once you get it in there. Okay, so we got those two in. We'll put the other ones in. These ones will be a lot easier because we have it in place now. On this one, I'll show you what I mean about just getting it in that slot. Obviously in here, the whole head will pass through, so we just want to tighten it down while it's going into that slot right there. So once you get them all in, it's not a bad idea just to go back to each one, just make sure they're snug. They are nylock nuts, so they're not going to come off on you. You just don't want it loose and having it bouncing around. Okay, so we got the module installed now onto the cradle, just like that. You can set the cradle assembly aside now. That's done for now. We're going to move on to the bridge and installing the Echomap bail mount on here. So we're going to use the larger size hardware in that same hardware kit. The bolts are going to be 5/32 Allen head, and then the nuts are 7/16 wrench. What I like to do for this is just remove the cradle from the bail mount just by loosening these two screws. That'll just give us better access down here. You don't have to do that because your wrench will fit in there. I just find it's a little bit easier if you take that out. And then go ahead, just install the bolts. What you're going to want to do in this case actually is go from the bottom up. And the reason for that is just for clearance on the battery. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get those all started. I failed to mention that this is going to be the front where this little nub comes out. This open space is going to be on the back side. So just keep that in mind when you're mounting this. So when you're doing this, your ears face forward on the mount, that's all. So I'll go ahead, tighten those down, the last two, and then we're all set to start assembling this. Next step is going to be to install our charge port. This is actually going to go right here on this hole here with the 4 small ones around it to hold it in place with some nuts and bolts. And the nice thing with this is going to allow us just to have a charge port here and have access to our battery without having to disassemble anything to charge the battery. So basically at night we can come in, plug our charger in, charge it up, be ready to go for the next day. So to do this, we're just going to feed this guy through just like so. Line it up with the holes. You're going to take screws from your original hardware kit that came with the Arclab. You're going to have an 11/32 nylock nut on the back, and then it's a number 2 Phillips in this case. There's a lot in the way back there, so it can be a little tricky to get these started. One trick you can do, just rotate the nut the opposite way rather than rotating it right, rotate it left. You'll feel it kind of click into place when it is found the threads, and then that way you won't cross thread it. So I'll just put my 11/32 on the back on the nut, number 2 Phillips up here, and then just tighten these guys down. So now that that charge port is installed, the bridge is basically ready to go to mount on the shuttle, so we'll do that right now. When you're getting this in place, you just want to make sure that that charge cable is going to be out of the way. And then just making sure you have clearance here with the battery. You can tuck that charge port in there. We'll clean up all the wiring once we get the hardware assembled. So from your hardware kit, this is what you should have left. Some standard machine screws, some flush mount machine screws. These ones we'll be using on the bottom of the shuttle. You should have 8 of the nylock nuts left, and then 2 machine screws. Don't worry about those. Those are for the faceplate, which is threaded. So if you're not seeing the correct amount of nuts to bolts, that is intentional. So I've gone ahead, laid that shuttle on the module on the back here. The bridge is not attached yet, so just be careful when you're doing this. You can take the flush mount screws. There's slots in the bottom here, so it is a little bit adjustable, and then holes in the bridge, and then you can just start assembling that. These ones are a little tricky to get started, and sometimes it helps just to have your nut in there and then grab the screwdriver, just ensuring that you don't cross thread them. So just make sure that grabs, which it did. You could also use, if your hands don't fit in there, a pair of pliers to hold it. That will definitely be an option for you. I haven't tightened any of these yet. There is a little bit of play here, and you do need that play to get all the bolts in. If you did tighten everything down and then go to your last one, it's not centered up properly, it may not go in all that easily. This is where having a pair of pliers is helpful. If you can get it on there, just give it a quick little turn, and then you can actually come down from the top with a socket. That'll get it started. So that's all good. And then now what we can do, actually on those back ones, I'm going to use the socket. I think it'll be the easiest. And just tighten those guys down. The nice thing is they don't take much to tighten because they are appropriately sized. There you go. And you can go back again all four corners, make sure everything is nice and tight. So that'll do those ones. And then we have 4 on the back here, which is basically the same type of scenario. So I'll grab our next 4, just gonna ensure our holes are lined up. And actually with these ones, it's best to start with the bottom ones, just because they will be the trickiest, and then that way there's nothing in the way. So the way I'm gonna do these ones, just with a pair of pliers to hold my nut, get my screw in there. The top ones here are definitely easier because you can get access right from the top here. So it's pretty easy just to manipulate the nut with your fingers to get those in. So this side, just to show you, you can come in from the front with a socket and extension. The top is a little hard to do that because of the charge port, so the top side you will have to go ahead and use your wrench. Okay, now we got that all assembled and ready to go. So next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and wire everything up to the battery and just feed those through. We'll show you how to do that next. We've got all the wiring ready to go now. First, what we're gonna do actually is just do the front faceplate. We're gonna put the switch on that, so I'll show you how to do that quickly here. So on your switch, just basically gonna go ahead, unscrew that guy, insert the switch into the hole. There is writing on it, so just make sure it's up the right way. And then put the nut on the back, just tightening that down. Again, just make sure everything is aligned before you give it that final tighten. You're gonna have a positive, a switch, and a negative on here. So we'll talk about how to wire that up in a minute now that that's assembled. So like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple components to the wiring. We have our Echomap power cable. This is with the Garmin style connectors on it. And then we have our shuttle wiring harness. So right now we're gonna deal with the shuttle wiring harness. Just to orient you to it a little bit, these 2 pieces here with the female connectors are going to go onto the male terminals on the battery. You already are pre-wired for that switch with these blue connectors. Those will go onto the switch. And then the male connectors here will be on your power cable, will attach to the Garmin power cable. And then this will attach to the charge connector, which is right here. So let me just show you a close-up of assembling this. It's actually really well designed in the size of it, so it'll go on you know, very, very neatly. So basically taking our negative, just feeding it up through the back here. And then on the front, we are gonna attach the positive, and you should always attach the positive first, not the negative. This can also be done prior to putting the bridge on, so it will definitely make that a little bit easier. Then I'm gonna wanna run those 2 cables up to the top like this. The negative with the blue, I'm gonna feed that out here because that's gonna be going to our switch. So just kind of keep that in that area. And then we can attach the charge port on here. Just a simple SAE trailer style connector. So it's not too much to that, just ensuring that red to red, black to black. All right, so now on the Garmin cable, we're gonna take our short cable, red cable here from the Arclab kit. I like to just slide this tubing on the Garmin connector forward just to give us a nice waterproof connection there. So that's that. We're gonna do the same for the negative on the cable, so that you can kind of pass up through the back here. Just feed it up so you have enough slack to do that. And again, just pushing that forward so we have a nice connection. And that can kind of all tuck in there like so. This connection too, just I'll explain. You're not going to be using this. This is a charge port connection. There are some Garmin chargers that you could use with their kits. That's what that's for. So we're not going to use that. We're just going to tuck that away. And then these guys here are actually power takeoff connectors. So you do have a positive and negative. So if you think you would be, using that in any way, you could probably have them come up through here. So I'm going to go ahead and just feed the rest of the Garmin power wire through here. Okay, and we'll just tuck everything else back into place so it's kind of neat and out of the way. Your 2-wire is for your black box, your module. So that one I like to bring out through here, and then you can attach that into the black box. This is going to be for your Echomap connector, so we'll just keep that out of the way for now. And then the last step is just wiring in our switch. So on the switch, we're going to take our Garmin power cable, the one that's attached to the factory Garmin power cable, push that one on, and just make sure you get a click like that, nice positive click. The one with the fuse connector on it is going to go to our middle terminal here. Okay, nice positive click there as well. And then the last one is going to be our negative, which has been tucked up here. So if you did attach your negative terminal to the battery first, you can remove that just to get a little extra slack for this guy. And that guy obviously goes on the bottom. It is the one labeled as negative. Okay, that one's in there now. So we're just gonna basically tuck all the wires up so they're not gonna get pinched when we go ahead and put this plate on like so. And if your negative is not connected to your battery, just have that out so it's nice and easy to find. And then the final step in installing the shuttle is just these 2 machine screws down here. So I'll do that now. And this is slotted, so it is adjustable, so you can get that to sit really nice. Again, just double checking that we don't have any cables being pinched there. Snug that guy down. I'll do the same over here. And then if there's any final adjustment that we have to do to get it to sit nice, we can. This one slid down a bit, so I'll just raise that one up. Tightening it in, and there we go. So our shuttle is now all assembled, ready to go. So what I'm going to do is take my 2-prong connector, feed that back out through, and then that's going to go into the GLS10 module right here. Just spin it till you find it, and then you can go ahead and start your threads for that connector. Good idea at this point too to connect the negative terminal on your battery. So we're all set, ready to go. Switch was in the on position. You should have that in the off position before you connect your negative, but as you can see, we're ready to go there. So we're gonna install our cable management piece now. This will go on these 2 bolt holes right here, just on the back, just like so. So in our hardware kit, we've got 2 Phillips screws and then 2 3/8 nuts. We'll use those to install this. I'm gonna put the screws through first, and then we'll have the nuts on the back side. While we're back here, we'll go ahead and feed our network cable through, and then bringing that to the front side, we're gonna have our Echomap power cable and network cable, which we can now attach to the cradle that holds the unit. So on the unit, you may have 2 network ports. It doesn't matter which one you use. Whatever's easier, I'm gonna just try and use these 2. We can go ahead and put that cradle into the bail mount bracket now. Before you rotate the bracket into position, you just want to make sure all these cables are going to be nicely tucked down there, not going to be pinching or damaged in any way. Then you can go ahead and tighten that bracket down. Here are all the components you're going to have for the pole. Then here's our tripod assembly. So we're basically going to attach these pieces on here with the nuts, bolts, and washers. This collar will then attach on here. This is the part that pivots to allow you to spin it around. So we'll go ahead and assemble this now. All right, so we'll go ahead with our Phillips. This is the number 2 again. Then we got a 3/8 drive on the back there. You're gonna wanna get these to where you're kind of just around that point. They almost like lock into place when they're down and up. I'll have to remove that just to make this a little bit easier. Basically, on the nut, if you want to see, just so the first thread's barely exposed, that's basically where you need to be with these to get the action you want. So they're all nicely kind of locking into place in both positions. That's how you're going to want to have it. You can go ahead, put that depth collar back in there. Okay, so we'll take our pole, can then slide it in like so, and then just tighten down that depth collar. And now when that's in our hole, we're able to spin our Livescope transducer really nicely. So it'll come with the extension here as well. If you want to use that, you can. But what we're going to be doing in this case, on our transducer mount, just loosen out that pin, slide it into place, and then there's two settings. So just by rotating this 90 degrees, there's another hole in there, it'll allow you to adjust that. And then down here, you can just loosen this off a little bit so it's easier to adjust. We're able to adjust the angle that our transducer is at. So we're gonna go ahead, take our Livescope transducer, just kind of get it in place, make sure everything's good there. We're gonna take our selector disc, which is what's gonna go on here, and allow us that ratchet just like we would get on a factory mount. We'll take our 3M adhesive pad here, just get that on there. You can trim the excess, which is what I'm gonna have to do here in this case. Then you'll also have to trim out the center hole. And then we can go ahead, remove the backing on the 3M, align it into place here, and then just give that a good press. Then our transducer can go in just like so, and just feed that bolt through. Okay, and we'll put our nut on the other end. So 1/2 inch wrench on the nut, 6 mil hex up top here. Probably go a little bit more just so that tightens down, doesn't move once it's tight. So you can kind of play with that till you're happy with how that is. That's completely up to you. And then we're able to adjust it like so for either forward or down in this view, and then we can spin it into perspective as well. So we can take our cable management and then just go ahead, clip those on wherever you see fit. So you can put a couple of those on. You obviously don't have to use all of them. If you're gonna use the extension arm, that's where your others may come in. So for now, I'm just gonna clip those on there so I have those if I ever need the extension arm. So that's the Arclab pole with the LVS34 transducer assembled on it there. So last step, now that we've got the pole and shuttle all assembled, is attaching our transducer to the cable management on the back here. So I just fed the transducer cable down and through. Just gonna make sure that lines up with the keyway. Okay, and once it's in, you can tighten that down. Then you can just go ahead and wrap your transducer cable around. Definitely like to take some time with this, and if it is all coiled up, not a bad idea just to kind of uncoil that as you go. Always like to start with the cable connector end first, because that way you're able to fully wrap this up and unwrap it when you're not using it. If your hole is a little bit further away than typically would be, you can adjust and accommodate for that. So that'll get me to a good position there. I can take my pole management clips. They'll clip right up here. Whoops, wrong way. You can slide those into position where you like. You can grab your Arclab pole. That is now completely assembled, ready to go ice fishing. We've got the display unit on there, nice and easy to carry, all in one piece like this. All right, so now that we've got everything all assembled, we're ready to go. There's one last thing we haven't talked about, and that is the charging system and how that all works. So basically the charger that it's gonna come with is gonna have alligator clips on it, but we did provide you with this trailer connector, which will then plug into the side here. All we have to do is cut the connector, match them up, and splice this in. That will then allow you to use your charger with this charge port, so you don't have to disassemble the front of this every time you need to charge it up with your alligator clips. So I'll show you how to do that quickly. Obviously, you just want to make sure your charger is not plugged in while you're doing this. I like to leave a little bit of slack there. You just cut your cable and then strip it back just like you would anything else. Do the same here. You're gonna have a red wire and a brown wire. Your brown is going to be your negative, red is going to be your positive. Okay, so you're just gonna then match those up and you can connect them however you choose. Now, we're not supplying connectors for this because there are a lot of different options. In our case, all I'm gonna do is some butt connectors. I'll show you how to do that. Another option would be quick disconnects. So we could put the female version on the charger end, male version on the trailer connector end, and then we just have a quick disconnect. That will then allow you to get another set of these guys, put them on your alligator clips so you can reuse these if you ever need them. So that might be an option for you. Either way, these types of connectors are available on our website, and I will link all of these ones in the video description. So it's all set, ready to go. This is an awesome kit. If you guys are looking for a top-of-the-line kit for your Echomap unit, or you're looking to purchase an Echomap unit in Livescope for ice fishing, check them out, radioworld.ca, where we have these available. Also check the links in the description box below, and it'll take you right to those pages.